The night was cold on the outer spaceport of Nexar 7. The stars above were silent, but trouble was growing on the ground. An alien girl named Zura moved quickly between dark metal walls, her purple skin glowing faintly under the moonlight. Her heart beat fast. Her hands gripped something tight, a small amulet silver and glowing with ancient light. She looked back. 3 figures in black uniforms were following her, their eyes red with scanners, their boots silent but fast. Zura was alone, tired and scared. She didn't know how much longer she could run. Zura had been hiding for 2 days. No food, no rest, no help. Her only hope was the amulet, but the amulet was also the reason they were chasing her. She ducked into a narrow alley. The wind was sharp, cutting against her skin. She heard a voice in her head. It was her mother's voice from the last message she received. Protect the amulet, Zura, no matter what, even if it costs you everything. Her eyes were wet, but she kept running. If they caught her, everything would be lost, not just her life, but maybe many more. The amulet wasn't just a treasure, it was a key, and keys always opened something dangerous. At the same spaceport not far from Zura, a human named Dane Carter was fixing his small cargo ship. He was a former soldier, now just a delivery pilot with too many debts and not enough peace. He was checking the engine when he saw movement out of the corner of his eye. A flash of purple, a shadow running. Then, 3 men in black, moving fast behind. Dane had seen enough battles to know when someone was being hunted, and something about the girl's eyes, wide and full of fear, made him pause. Zura slipped on a metal grate and fell. The amulet flew from her hand and rolled near Dane's foot. She looked up and froze. Dane looked down and picked up the amulet. It felt warm, alive, like it had a heartbeat. Then the black uniformed men arrived. One of them pointed a weapon at Zura. "Step aside, human," he said. "That thing does not belong to you." Dane looked at Zura, then at the men. He didn't like bullies. He didn't like hunters chasing scared girls. And he really didn't like being told what to do. He stepped between them and the girl. "I think she needs help," Dane said. The leader growled, "You don't know what you're getting into." Dane smiled a little. "Story of my life." Without warning, the man fired. A red beam hit the ground near Dane's foot, burning the metal. Zura screamed, "Run!" Dane didn't need more convincing. He grabbed her hand and pulled her toward his ship. The hunters followed, shouting. Weapons ready, blaster fire lit up the alley, hitting walls and crates. They ran through smoke and shadows, Dane pulling Zura behind him. She was fast, even after days of running. They reached the ship and Dane hit the door button. It slid open just in time. Once inside, he sealed the door and turned to her. "What the hell is going on?" he asked. Zura was breathing hard. Her eyes were wide, but she didn't answer. Instead, she reached for the amulet in his hand. He let her take it. As soon as she touched it, it glowed brighter. "I need to get off this planet," she said softly. Dane looked at her for a long moment. He could say no, he could throw her out, but something inside told him this was bigger than it looked. "All right," he said, "but I want answers." Zura nodded slowly. "You'll get them," she said. "If we survive." Outside, the ship was already surrounded. The hunters were calling for backup. But Dane's engines were ready, and the ship lifted into the sky just as the first missile was fired. Inside the ship, Zura sat with the amulet close to her chest. Dane watched her from the pilot seat. He didn't know who she was, or what the amulet really did, but he knew one thing. He had just stepped into a fight that wasn't his, and he wasn't walking away. The ship shook as it flew through Nexar 7's lower atmosphere. Alarms beeped, warning lights blinked red, and Dane Carter held the controls tight. Zura sat beside him, clutching the amulet like it was part of her own heart. Her breathing was still fast, but she didn't look scared anymore, just focused. Behind them, a missile exploded in the sky, sending waves of fire through the clouds. Dane pulled hard on the flight stick, dodging a second blast. His voice was calm, but his eyes showed fire. "I hope whatever that necklace is, it's worth all this," he said. Zura didn't answer. She was thinking too fast, too deep. The amulet had reacted again, glowing brighter every time danger came closer. It was not just a key. It was waking up. They flew into a cloud tunnel hiding from scanners. Below them, the city lights of Nexar 7 stretched like a sea of fireflies. But neither of them looked out the window. They were already thinking ahead. Dane landed the ship deep in the old industrial zone. Abandoned factories and scrap towers surrounded them. This place was full of shadows, and that made it perfect for hiding. Once they were safe, he turned to Zura. "All right, you owe me some answers," he said, crossing his arms. "Who were those guys, and what is that thing you're carrying?" Zura stayed silent for a moment. Then she said, "They're called collectors. They work for someone powerful, someone who wants the galaxy under his control." She opened her hand and showed him the amulet. "It's not just a treasure, Dane. It's a map." Dane frowned. "A map to what?" Zura whispered. "To something hidden, something buried before history began." She looked up at him with tired eyes. "It can unlock an ancient vault on the ghost planet Darien 6, and inside is a weapon, or maybe a power." Dane sat down, thinking. He'd heard rumors of Darien 6, a dead world that no one returned from. Legend said it once burned with the energy of stars, then went silent. "Why are you carrying it?" he asked. Zura looked away. "Because it chose me." Before Dane could ask more, the ship's motion sensor beeped. He jumped to the screen and saw movement outside. Too small for a ship, too fast for animals. "Someone's here," he muttered. He grabbed his old blaster from under the seat. Zura clutched the amulet again and followed him silently. They opened the side door and stepped out into the dark. Shadows danced across broken machines and rusted metal. The wind was dry, but it carried something else. Footsteps. Suddenly, from the darkness, a shadow jumped at them. Dane fired fast. The shot missed but lit up the figure. It was a bounty hunter wearing armor made of scrap and bone. The hunter rolled, pulled a sharp blade, and charged. But Zura raised the amulet high. It flashed bright, like a lightning strike. The hunter stopped mid-run, blinded. Dane tackled him to the ground and pressed the blaster to his chest. "Why are you after us?" he growled. The bounty hunter coughed and laughed. "Not just you, human," he hissed. "Every hunter in the galaxy has the price now." Zura's face went pale. "They posted the bounty?" The hunter grinned. "5 million for the girl, double if you bring the amulet too." He tried to move, but Dane hit him with the blaster's back and knocked him out cold. They dragged the hunter into the shadows and tied him with old ship cables. Zura leaned against a wall, her eyes wide. "This is bigger than I thought," she said softly. "They won't stop now, Dane. They'll come in waves." Dane looked at her, then at the stars above. He had just been trying to fix his ship this morning now. He was running from bounty hunters with a mysterious alien girl and a glowing key to some forgotten weapon. And strangely, he didn't want to run away. He wanted to see how deep this went. "We'll need help," he said. "And gear?" Zura nodded. "There's an old friend on Outpost Varnus. He used to work with my mother. Maybe he still will." Dane smirked. "Used to work with her? Or used to betray her?" Zura gave a bitter smile. "Both." He powered up the ship again. The engines roared softly, ready to fly. Outside, more shadows moved in the night, more hunters, more danger. But inside the ship, something had changed. Zura was no longer alone. And Dane Carter, the human who interfered, had just become her protector. The chase had started, but the war was just beginning. The stars above were cold and quiet as Dane's ship left Nexar 7 behind. But inside the cockpit, the silence was full of questions. Dane flew the ship through deep space, checking his radar every few seconds. Zura sat next to him, holding the glowing amulet in her lap like it was part of her soul. "Outpost Varnus is 2 hours away," Dane said, his voice low. Zura nodded, but she wasn't really listening. Her eyes were locked on the amulet. It was changing again. The silver surface now pulsed with slow, steady light. Symbols appeared, ancient lines and dots she hadn't seen before. She touched them gently, and the amulet reacted like it knew her. Dane glanced at her. "That thing's waking up, isn't it?" he asked. Zura nodded. "It's alive in some way. It's more than a key. I think it remembers." Dane raised an eyebrow. Remembers what? Zura looked at him, her voice quiet. The war before the stars. She explained what little she knew. Long ago, before humans reached the stars, before most aliens even built space stations, there was an empire. Not one made of ships and armies, but of minds and energy. They created tools that could think, that could choose. The amulet was one of them. But the empire fell, she said. Some say it destroyed itself. Others say something worse came. Dane whistled softly. And now, someone wants to wake it all back up. Zura nodded slowly. And they're starting with this, she whispered, holding the amulet close. The ship shook gently as it entered orbit around Outpost Varnus. It was a broken moon station, spinning slowly above a gas giant. Most of it was dead, but one small section still had life and power. A place for those who didn't want to be found. They landed quietly and walked through rusty airlocks and flickering lights. Zura led the way, past broken droids and shattered screens. Finally, they reached a small chamber with a round steel door. She knocked 3 times, then twice more. A scanner lit up, scanned her face, and the door opened with a soft hiss. Inside was a tall alien with gray skin, long arms, and deep black eyes. He wore a coat made from old star maps, and he smiled when he saw Zura. "Little Flame," he said. "I thought you were dead." "Hello, Tavik," she said, but her tone was cold. Dane stayed quiet, watching closely. Tavik stepped forward, staring at the amulet. "So it really exists," he whispered. "The map to Daryon 6. You once promised my mother you'd help protect it," Zura said. "Will you keep that promise now?" Tavik's smile faded. "Depends," he said. "Do you still trust me after what happened?" Dane stepped in. "We don't have time for old stories. Someone's trying to use this thing, and the whole galaxy might pay the price." Tavik nodded slowly. "Then come," he said. "There's something you must see." He led them into a secret room behind a false wall. It was filled with old alien tech glowing softly under dim lights. Tavik pulled out a round device and connected it to the amulet. The room filled with light, and a hologram appeared, an ancient star map. It showed planets, symbols, and one world in red. Daryon 6. Then a voice began to speak, not from any of them, but from the amulet itself. "Chosen bearer," the voice said. "You hold the memory of the sealed empire. You walk the path of judgment." Zura trembled. Dane's hand went to his blaster. Tavik just watched, silent and still. The voice continued. "Daryon 6 holds the seat of authority. It must never fall into the hands of the corrupt." Then the light faded and silence returned. Dane was the first to speak. "Seat of authority? That doesn't sound good." Tavik looked serious now. "It's not just a weapon, it's a tool of control. The one who claims it can bend armies, silence worlds, rewrite law across systems." Zura sat down, her face pale. "And now the collectors want it," Tavik nodded. "And they're not the only ones." He handed Dane a small chip. "This will help you reach Daryon 6, but be warned. Getting close will wake up old guardians." Dane took the chip. "Great," he said. "More things trying to kill us." Zura stood up. "We have no choice. We have to go." Tavik touched her shoulder gently. "I hope you're strong enough, Little Flame, or it won't just be your life that ends." As they walked back to the ship, Dane looked at Zura. "You okay?" She nodded. "No," she said honestly. "But I will be." And as the ship lifted into the stars again, the amulet pulsed like a heartbeat. Old powers were stirring, and the secrets of the past were ready to rise. The ship flew like a ghost, through deep space, no signal, no trail, no sound but the hum of its engines. Dane Carter sat at the control panel, eyes sharp, one hand on the throttle. Zura sat beside him, staring at the glowing amulet in her hands. It hadn't stopped pulsing since they left Outpost Varnus. The map inside it was alive now, guiding them toward Daryon 6, a dead planet wrapped in silence, buried in time. But they both knew they wouldn't reach it quietly. In the shadows of space, across stations and systems, something had begun. The bounty was real and the price was high. 5 million credits for the alien girl, 10 for the amulet. Every hunter, pirate, and mercenary had seen the message, and every one of them was watching the stars on a backwater world called Row 5. A scarred bounty hunter named Keller Vane grinned as he watched the footage. Zura's face glowed on his screen, beside it a still image of Dane from a dock cam. Human and alien together, Keller growled. Easy money in a floating prison. Above a gas giant, a hacker gang broke through security to find Dane's last ship logs. On a pirate moon, a war clan of cyberdogs marked the bounty as highest priority. The galaxy had smelled blood, and now the hunt had begun, back on the ship. Dane frowned at a blinking red light. "We've got company," he said. Zura looked up. "How many?" Dane zoomed the radar screen. 3 ships, small and fast, bounty hunter class. He pulled the ship hard to the left, dodging into an asteroid field. The rocks floated like sleeping giants, dark and dangerous. "Hang on," Dane muttered. Zura held onto her seat as the ship twisted between the stones. Behind them, the hunters followed, firing shots that lit up the shadows. Lasers bounced off rocks. Explosions echoed in the dark. Dane flew like a storm, slipping through cracks, diving under debris. But one hunter stayed close. Keller Vane's ship, shaped like a claw and twice as deadly. "He's locking on," Zura warned. Dane pressed. A hidden button, and the back of their ship opened, dropping metal spheres. The spheres exploded into light, blinding sensors. Keller cursed and lost sight for 2 seconds, just enough time for Dane to vanish into the rocks. They hid behind a large asteroid. Engines off. Silence returned. Only the soft heartbeat of the amulet echoed in the cabin. Zura looked at Dane. "Why are you helping me?" she asked. Dane didn't answer right away. He looked out the window, eyes distant. "Long ago," he said. "I was a soldier. Fought in a war that didn't matter. Saw people die for lies." He turned to her. "This time, I want to fight for something real." Zura said nothing, but her eyes softened. She held the amulet tighter. "I think it chose you too," she whispered. Suddenly, the amulet pulsed brighter. A new map line appeared, pointing to a detour. Zura gasped. "It's warning us," she said. "There's a trap ahead on the path to Darien 6. Dane narrowed his eyes. "How would they know where we're going?" Zura's face darkened. "Tavik," she said. "He gave us the chip. Maybe he was bought." Dane stood up, grabbed his blaster, and paced. "If the path is compromised, we'll have to find a new one," he said. "But every second we delay, more hunters get close." Zura stood too, her voice steady. "Then let's make them come," she said. Dane raised an eyebrow. "What?" "We can't run forever," Zura said. "If they're coming, let's choose the battlefield." Dane smiled, a wild look in his eyes. "Now that," he said, "sounds like a plan." They picked a nearby moon, Krayla, rocky, dark, full of old mining tunnels. Dane had been there once long ago, and he knew how to hide. They landed in silence, set traps in the tunnels, and waited. The amulet dimmed for the first time in days, as if it too was holding its breath. Zura sat on a rock, eyes sharp. Dane checked his blaster again, whispering to himself, "Come on then, let's see who's hunting who." In space above the moon, 5 ships arrived, and the war for the amulet began. The moon of Krayla was silent, a cold world of dust, broken stone, and forgotten tunnels. But beneath its surface, deep in the shadows, 2 figures waited. One was Dane Carter, former soldier, now protector. The other was Zura, alien girl, chosen bearer of the amulet. Above them, space shimmered with the arrival of 5 bounty hunter ships, each one loaded with weapons, tracking systems, and mercenaries ready to kill. The hunt had turned into a war, and the prize was now more than credits. It was power, inside a collapsed mining tunnel. Dane checked the last trap. He had rigged old mining bots with explosives and EMP coils, crude but deadly. Zura stood nearby, watching him with quiet focus. "You've done this before," she said. Dane nodded. "Too many times." He looked at her, his voice serious. "Once they land, We'll have minutes before they sweep the tunnels. Zura placed the amulet against the stone wall. It glowed faintly and revealed a hidden chamber behind. She opened the door with a whisper. This is where we fall back if it gets bad. Dane smiled grimly. It's already bad. First ship landed with a loud hiss. Dust flew into the air, hiding black armored boots. Keller Vane stepped out first, scanning the area with glowing red eyes. Behind him were 4 hunters, silent, trained, armed with plasma rifles. They're here, Zura whispered. The amulet pulsed once. Like a warning heartbeat, Dane crouched, in the dark watching through a crack in the wall. As the hunters entered the tunnel, his hand tightened on his old blaster. He wasn't just fighting for Zura anymore. He was fighting for something he hadn't felt in years. Purpose. The first trap triggered, an explosion lit up the cave, and 2 hunters flew backward, screaming. Zura closed her eyes for a moment. She hated death, even if it was necessary. Keller didn't flinch. He gave orders in a strange tongue, and the others split into pairs. Find the girl, kill the human, he said. Do not touch the amulet. Dane moved quickly, using the shadows. He shot one of the mercenaries from behind and melted back into the dark. The tunnel echoed with panic and blasts of fire. Zura retreated to the hidden chamber, sealing the door behind her. Inside, she sat cross-legged and held the amulet tightly. It glowed brighter, and suddenly, her mind filled with visions. Ancient cities, alien temples, armies of light and shadow. Voices spoke in languages she didn't know, but understood. They called her the Flame of Balance, and warned her, if the human falls, the key will be broken. Her heart raced. Dane wasn't just helping her. He was connected to the amulet now. Outside, Dane faced Keller alone. They circled each other in a wide tunnel lit by sparks and fire. You should have walked away, human, Keller growled. Dane didn't answer. He just aimed and fired. The shot hit Keller's arm. But the bounty, Hunter laughed. He rushed forward and slammed into Dane. They fell hard, fists flying. Weapons dropping, Dane's ribs cracked, but he didn't stop. He punched, rolled, grabbed a sharp rock and drove it into Keller's side. The hunter screamed, but he grabbed Dane by the throat and lifted him. Zura's door opened. She stepped out, eyes glowing blue with energy from the amulet. Let him go, she said. Keller turned, smirking. Or what? The amulet flashed, bright, blinding, alive. A wave of force exploded from Zura's hand, knocking Keller into the wall. He crashed down and didn't move again. Dane gasped for breath, leaning against the stone. Zura rushed to him. You're hurt, she said. He smiled weakly. Nothing a nap and a miracle can't fix. They limped back to the ship. The other hunters had fled. The traps had done their job. But Dane's wound was deep, blood stained his shirt, and his steps were slow. Zura helped him into the medical bed. The amulet floated above him, glowing softly. It pulsed once, then sent out a wave of energy that healed the worst of the wound. Dane opened his eyes, shocked. Did that thing just save me? Zura nodded. It's learning. And choosing. The ship lifted off Krayla as the sun rose behind the rocks. Smoke rose from the battle site. The first war had ended, but ahead of them, more storms waited. Zura sat beside Dane, who now slept in the healing bed. She whispered, You're not just helping me anymore, Dane. You're becoming part of the story. The stars outside were endless, and so was the fight to reach Darien 6. The ship moved slowly through an unmarked part of space. No signals, no stars close by. Only darkness and distant echoes. Zura sat in silence, the amulet resting in her lap, glowing with a strange, soft light. Dane Carter slept behind her in the med bay, still recovering from the wounds he earned on Krayla. The amulet had saved him. It had pulsed with life, sent out energy, and stitched his wounds like invisible threads. But now it was doing something else. It was pulling, guiding, calling. Zura felt it in her chest, a deep vibration like a voice trapped beneath water. She stood slowly and walked toward the ship's navigation system. A new set of coordinates appeared on the screen, Not Darien 6, but something on the way, something hidden between stars. She entered the path into the autopilot and let the ship follow. Then she walked into the back and sat beside Dane, who stirred and opened his eyes. "Where are we going?" he asked. "I don't know," Zura said, "but the amulet does." Minutes passed, then hours, until a strange shape appeared ahead. A floating space structure, old and cracked, spinning gently in the dark. It looked like a temple, not built for living, but for remembering. The ship landed softly on the outer ring. No guards, no weapons, just silence. They stepped out together, weapons ready. The air was cold, the walls covered in alien markings. Zura held up the amulet. It glowed brighter and released a beam of light into the wall. A doorway opened, and inside was a chamber full of floating crystals. Suddenly, everything went still. The air shimmered, and a figure appeared in the middle of the room. Not alive, not solid. A memory, a projection. She was tall, beautiful, with silver eyes and robes that moved like starlight. "I am Solari Vena," the figure said, "last queen of the sealed." Empire, Zura and Dane stood frozen. The figure looked at Zura, then at the amulet. "You carry the final key," she said, "and with it, the truth must be known." The crystals around them lit up, and visions appeared. They saw ancient cities of light and energy, ships that flew without fuel, minds connected across galaxies. But then, darkness came. A figure wrapped in shadow, leading armies of machines and monsters. "He was once our own," the Queen said. "A leader named Kale Varun, who believed power should belong to the few." The visions showed Kale's rise and the wars he started. Planets burned, species vanished. To stop him, the Empire sealed away its knowledge, including the seed of authority, a device that could control not only machines but will, thought, memory. The amulet was the map and the lock, and Zura, the last of her bloodline, had been chosen to carry it. "But I don't want power," Zura said, her voice shaking. The Queen's projection smiled sadly, "Which is why you were chosen." Then the Queen turned to Dane. "And you, human, are the unexpected variable," she said. "Your kind did not exist in our time, and yet the amulet accepts you." Dane frowned. "Why me?" The Queen's voice grew softer. "Because when power appears, someone must stand beside it, not to take it, but to keep it from falling." The projection began to fade. "The path to Darien 6 will test your mind, your heart, and your trust," the Queen said. "The seed must not fall into the hands of Kale's followers, or this galaxy will burn once more." The vision ended. Silence returned. Zura and Dane stood alone again. They walked back to the ship, heads heavy with new knowledge. Dane sat in the pilot's seat, deep in thought. "All this time I thought we were running," he said. "But now I see. We've been walking straight into a legend." Zura looked down at the amulet. "It's not just a key," she whispered. "It's a test." As the ship lifted off the old structure, a signal was sent. Quiet, hidden, but far-reaching. On a hidden station deep in the red spiral, a figure watched the alert flash on his screen. His eyes were black, his face marked by ancient scars. He stood slowly and whispered, "She's awakened the memory." He turned to his guards. "Prepare. The fleet," he ordered. "We go to Darien 6. Back on the ship." Dane set a course toward the final planet. No more hiding, no more running. The truth was out, the final path was clear. Zura looked at him. "Do we even have a chance?" Dane smirked. "Probably not," he said, "but that's never stopped us before." And the stars opened wide as the final chapter began. The stars were quiet, but every quiet has a storm waiting behind it, and this storm had a name, Kale Varun. His fleet moved like shadows, silent and deadly. Hundreds of warships, drones, and hunter-class destroyers gathered near Darien 6, a dead planet, once buried in mystery, now glowing with ancient light. Zura and Dane arrived before them. Their ship dropped through the planet's thin clouds and descended toward the surface. Below them, The land was broken and black, cracked by time. In the center stood a tower made of crystal and stone, the vault of the seed. Dane looked at the planet, then at Zura. "You sure about this?" he asked. Zura nodded slowly. "I have to be." They landed near the tower and stepped out into the cold wind. Zura held the amulet tightly, its glow now blinding. The door to the vault opened on its own, sensing her presence. Inside, the walls shimmered with energy. Floating runes followed her steps, lighting the path. Dane stayed close, his blaster ready. At the heart of the vault, they saw it. A golden sphere, pulsing like a star, floating above a pedestal. This was the seed of authority. It didn't look like a weapon, it looked alive. Zura stepped closer, but before she could touch it, the room shook. Sirens echoed across the vault. Kale's fleet had arrived. From the sky above, Kale descended in a personal warship, black and sharp like a blade. He walked out, his armor, old and scarred, his eyes burning with cold fire. Behind him marched soldiers, weapons raised. Dane stood in front of Zura, aiming his blaster at the dark figure. "You're late," he said. Kale smirked. "You're human," he said, and still standing, impressive. Zura held up the amulet. "It's over, Kale," she said. "You can't take the seed." Kale stepped forward, his voice like thunder. "I am not here to take it," he said. "I am here to awaken it." The seed pulsed brighter, sensing his presence. Dane fired his blaster. Kale blocked the shot with a wave of energy. Zura screamed, the amulet glowing hotter. The room exploded with light. Suddenly, all three of them were pulled into a vision, a place between time and space, a battlefield made of memory. Zura saw the fall of the sealed empire. She saw her ancestors fleeing, hiding the seed. She saw Kale, once a noble warrior, turning into a tyrant. The vision shifted. Zura stood on one side, Kale on the other, and between them, Dane, surrounded by light. A voice echoed. "One holds the blood, the other holds the flame, the third holds the choice." Back in the real vault, the seed began to spin fast. Zura fell to her knees, the amulet burning in her hands. Dane reached for her, but Kale struck him down with a blast of dark energy. "Don't touch her," Kyle growled. "She is the lock and I am the key," Zura cried out. But then, the amulet did something no one expected. It split, floating into two pieces. One entered her chest, the other flew into Dane's hands. A beam of light connected them. Kale stepped back, confused for the first time. "What is this?" he shouted. Zura stood, her body glowing like a star. "It's not just a key," she said. "It's a test." The seed spoke in a voice like thunder and music. "One who seeks power will fail. One who protects without desire shall lead." Kale screamed and charged forward, but the seed rejected him. It blasted him with pure energy and he vanished into the void. Silence returned. The seed floated gently, and Zura stepped forward to touch it. It melted into her hands, not as a weapon, but as a crown of energy. Her eyes changed, glowing white. She now held the voice of the Empire, the map, and the memory. Dane stood slowly, holding the other half of the amulet. The seed whispered again. "Two must lead, the flame and the shield." Zura looked at Dane. "You're not just a protector anymore," she said. "You're part of this." Dane chuckled softly. "Great," he said. "Does this mean I get to pick the curtains in the palace?" They stepped out of the vault together, the sky above them clearer than before. The war was over, the seed was safe, and across the galaxy the old systems began to awaken, but this time, with balance, with Zura, the last of her kind, and Dane, the human who never gave up. Legends would speak of this day, not just about the Empire, not just about the seed, but about a human who interfered and changed the future of stars forever.